so what I would recommend all of our friends who are watching or listening, I would recommend that, like, when you are aware that you're exposed to marketing and you want to, and you're like Nicole, like you want to reflect on this and think about what's going on. So I would almost take a curious analytical approach. When you see a campaign, who are they talking to? What do they want me to think, feel, or believe about them? And then I think by doing that as a practice, it will help you slow down and be a little more of a critical, thoughtful consumer of marketing, right? Because that's what marketers are doing. They're thinking about, because ultimately, like at the end of the day, we want you to choose our brand or choose our product, right? But as a consumer, if you can slow yourself down and have your system two brain say, who are they speaking to? What do they want me to think, feel, or believe? That might help you be a more thoughtful recipient of marketing.
Sometimes like I just get caught up in like the community aspect of it. Like there are some brands that I identify with so strongly that it's like they're like, hey, we're having a party, like come on down. I'm like, well, I like to party.
Yeah. I like to party too.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a desire to be on part of the group, right? Correct. Like again, this is like just very core to how our brains work. It's a survival instinct, is we want to be part of community, right? Yeah. And in a way, like, I don't mean to keep harping on Tibi, but that's kind of, I entered the Tibi universe because I find Amy's, she's an amazing marketer. Yes. Like, I find it fascinating. Yeah. I came to Tibi to kind of study, like, and understand, like, how is Amy and the team, Amy's really the front man, right, or front woman. So, but like, I came with a mindset of studying and understanding, like, what is she doing and why is she doing it well? And I have my opinions on it. Not that I have any inside track on how they do marketing, but like as an observer, there's, you know, a lot of things they do amazingly. And then there's like parts where I think they misstep, right? So like, I think I am so impressed with how she pivoted the business and company during COVID. That is a case study in amazing business survival. I think it's brilliant. Yes. It's brilliant. And these IG lives that she started doing, first with Dion and then onward after Dion left, I think they were brilliant. And you know, so Nicole, you mentioned community. They were amazing because they were giving us, they weren't selling us, they weren't selling, they were serving. And that creates community, right? When a company is not trying to sell me something, they're trying to get something from me, they're trying to serve me. And a lot of companies and brands forget that, and that's what they did. But I noticed, like, I don't watch all their lives, but I've watched many of them when I can. And it is, whenever there's a moment, if somebody slips into like a buy this now, or, you know, don't wait, it's going to be gone. Like, if there's ever that kind of tone, that's when I sort of, at my consumer brain goes, now they're used, you know, I feel like, oh, I'm being used because they're trying to sell me something instead of serving, right?
I think that's my experience too. And for me, it feels like when you're watching a show and they break the fourth wall, it's like dark. You're like, hey, wait a minute. Like, I thought we were doing this other thing. Like somebody just kind of looks at the camera and is like winking. And you're like,
oh,
it feels disruptive. And I think it's because, like you say, they're so effectively speaking to my system one brain otherwise.
Yes.
The pivot feels very abrupt.
It does, and you become aware of it. So, but that, like, so, you know, in a way, like, I fell into the universe, right? Like, I went down the rabbit hole with Tibi, and I still enter the conversation and dialogue with a curious mind, which is, how are they marketing? What do I feel they're doing well? Where do I feel that they can improve? What's their end game? You know, so I just, the curious side of me likes it, but also I just think, generally speaking, really good quality clothing that speaks to where I am right now.
And that's so that we've you know, we still have, right? The community that Tibi kind of built for us, we're still in that community, and like that's another big value that they've given to.
It's a huge value. Like, that's how the three of us have met, right?
Correct.
Exactly.
No,
and you know,
that's powerful. That's pretty powerful.
It is.
It is. It's wonderful.
I often say, like, even if I never buy another Tibi piece, which, like, to be honest, it's very unlikely, but even if I didn't, like, the best thing that I got from the brand was an introduction to this community. Like, that is huge. And particularly during the pandemic, like you said, it was like, you know, everything was thin on the ground to sort of like stumble into like this pocket that felt so substantive and so deep and so authentic was just, it was.
Well, and that's what's kind of brilliant about that. So sorry, I'm putting on my marketing hat again. Sorry guys, like that's how I move through the world.
That's what we're here for.
But the thing that Tibi and Amy and the team have done amazingly well is they're leveraging this very macro, what I would call macro trend of fashion, because you know how beauty has moved very closely into wellness and self-care. We can debate that a little bit, but fashion and clothing and style, I think, is also pivoting into this area of self-expression, self-actualization, because a lot of the you know, and Tibi talks about that really well, right? It's about your own style and expressing yourself, and I think that's where style and fashion narrative is going to go, right? Which is rather than, you know, feeling like I have to keep up, because there's a bright side and a dark side to style, and for me in my life, right? Style and clothing and how I present myself, my hair, my makeup, my clothes, have been a really powerful tool for me to figure out who am I and who do I want to be in the world, right? And it's a palette for me. In a way, it's my creative expression. I think that's the case for a lot of us, right? And especially as a young woman, when I was transitioning from being a teenager to an adult, like that is how you experiment with yourself and your self-identity, right? But it's also a means by which to control women, right? Where I feel pressure to dress a certain way, or I feel I want to wear, you know, like when I was young, it was like Gloria Vanderbilt jeans. You know, like if I didn't have that, it was like, I'm aging myself here when I say that to you. But so there's a dark side too, because there's social pressure to fit in, because clothing and style is how we fit in, right? In a group or a community. So you know I'm part of your group and I'm okay, so you're going to keep me in the tribe, right?
Very much.
So it's weird. Like I have sort of a mixed relationship with it. And it's also armor. Like I'm not going to lie. Like how I dress is also armor. So, you know, I'm now professional, and I, you know, for better or for worse, like I try to generally put some thought into how I look, especially when I'm with clients or potential clients, right? Because you do judge books by its cover, especially women, right?
Hitting the nail on the head, yes.
Or people who identify as women, right? So you know, it's a tool and it's a creative expression, but we have to be really conscious and aware of ourselves. I have to be conscious and aware of myself, that it doesn't start driving me. I want it to be a tool that I use, but I don't want it to control me.
No, I think that's right. And I think that's a very good insight, especially in terms of the marketing space, because I think there is built into a lot of marketing that pressure, that aspirational sort of like suggestion that like, if you're going to be part of like what's cool and what's hip and now, this is what you have to have.
Let's see if we have any here. We do have one at the end. It says, interesting because I think Trinny Woodall could have done the same thing in terms of creating a community. I'm in a Trinny Tribe Facebook group, but it doesn't have the same synergy. Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm a huge fan of Trinny as well. I am not part of the Trinny Tribe, but yeah, it's interesting. I think you have to pick your battles too, I suspect, right? Because managing your audiences and social media and having, you know, in a way, like Trinny and Amy both have really direct connections with a subset of their customer base, like deep personal connections, right? And I think that takes a tremendous amount of work. You know, I don't know if Amy does that all on her own. I have the impression she does. Trinny, I suspect, also has an army of people behind her, because digital and social media management is massively labor intensive.
Yes. Correct.
But it doesn't.
How do they do it? How, I mean,
but here's the thing though. I think the difference, Trinny, so I suspect the Trinny tribe is something that was created by Trinny, right? And her company. The sort of Tibi fans group that we're part of, that was not created by Tibi at all. It was created by a real individual person, by Yana. So I think it's really different. Like, that's a truly organic kind of audience. She would be. The thing that Amy did, which I thought was fascinating, right? During COVID, she actually consciously and quickly broke her relationships with large retailers, right? And the buyers that were coercing them over time. I think she felt the erosion of her creative vision, her and Tracy's creative vision, which I totally get that, right? So the fact that she actually they cut back their distribution and committed fully to small retailers and small distributors, I think was a really, really brilliant move. And yet also, if the goal of a company like that is growth, you also have to think about, well, growth is going to come from expanding your customer base, right?
Yes.
Keeping as many loyal customers as you can, but ultimately, like, we're kind of already in the universe, right? So we're already customer, or I'm speaking for myself, of course.
Oh no, and on my money. That's like, yeah.
Well, yeah, but Nicole, you said you might actually stop. You maybe have stopped buying Tibi. Like, you think you've reached the end of the road?
No. I was saying, like, I often tell people, like, if I were one day to stop buying Tibi, which, like, that's not on the event horizon.
Don't worry, Amy. We're still customers.
Yeah, still the best thing that I got at Tibi was this community. Like, it's not clothing that I got; it's meeting people and having these.
100%. I think that's really what's wonderful about it. And I get the sense from her and the team that there is truly a real passion for the product and the work. And I love that. I love that about them. Like, because I am somebody who has a passion for my work and my product as well. I'm not a fashion designer, but I care about what I put out in the world. And so I really respect the Tibi team for doing the same thing. Because their values and my values seem in alignment, right?
And I think it goes back to what you were saying in terms of, like, this virtuous cycle you were talking about. Is like, you have to know what not to do, right? You have to know what to cut away and be like, this is what's dragging us down. This is what's impacting, like, what we're trying to achieve. And so even speaking like you're talking about from a, like, passionate kind of center, like, that feels right from a creative space, but it's also true from, like, just a pure business perspective. Yeah.